fix this first or 2026 will fail. Okay, this is the one theory that it's going to explain why New Year's resolutions fail. It's the broken windows theory. This is a great book, kind of discussing a lot of different businesses that have implemented the broken windows theory in their structure and in their systems. So we're going to dig into what's in the book, some of the case studies, and I'm just going to kind of share from my own personal experience how I've been able to benefit from reading this book and how I've implemented in my life, both as an entrepreneur and as an intrapreneur. So, and I'll kind of talk about some of my principles, because this is my first video for 2026. It's January 1st. And yeah, let's dig into it. So the broken windows theory, it's this, I think the late 80s, basically someone was looking at how to reduce crime in a neighborhood. And they're looking at, all types of crime, from small things to big things. And they were saying, if you want to reduce the big crimes, like, violence or, whatever, stealing cars, these big crimes, the way to do that is by focusing in on the small crimes. So cleaning up broken windows, cleaning up graffiti. And the idea is that your environment influences your behavior. And when people see that people just don't take care of a building, or those sort of environmental factors end up creating a more conducive environment towards big crime. So that was the theory. They followed that theory, and they implemented a lot in New York City in the 90s, and they did see a dramatic reduction in crime. And so all of a sudden the theory kind of expanded. It got taught in business schools, and that's the broken windows theory. Fix the small things, and the big things sort of take care of themselves. So as it gets closer to now we're into the new year, 2026, people have these big resolutions. I'll just share with, for me last year, I had this big resolution to start a new business, hit 100K in new revenue from the business. And it was this big goal, and I focused on the big goal. And I think there was a lot of broken windows along the way. I probably worked 10x harder than I thought I would need to hit, 20, 25K in revenue. So it's, still an accomplishment. I'm very proud of, what I was able to build and, the foundations. But where were my broken windows, and how did I mess up? So again, from the business case studies that they share with, I'm going to dig into in a second with Walt Disney and Disneyland. But for myself, I think about, what are my main principles? I love helping people. I've learned a lot from being coached and being mentored as an entrepreneur. And today I'm more of an intrapreneur. I love to go into an organization, drive value, build relationships, get buy-in from different groups, effectively communicate a vision to the executive team. And I think that's, as an entrepreneur, you're gonna have a need for those same skills in terms of, hiring employees, articulating a vision, understanding which resources need to go to what projects, determining, not how to do it, but if we should do it in the first place. That sort of strategic thinking, the lateral thinking, those decisions need to be made quickly and effectively while still allowing the space to be creative, right? So how do you do that? I think about it as, again, going back to the broken windows theory. If I look at my own business, it was great to be working with some old clients. For me, it was kind of quick cash in the door, and also I can pitch out certain people on certain projects. And so that was great in terms of building up some cash flow on the side. And also it's kind of a more immediate ROI. It's a short-term win, but a long-term loss, because I'm able to work with people one-on-one, and I can see how they take the information, how they implement it, what the new problems are. I can talk to them 2 weeks later, see what new problems arise, and there's sort of that back and forth as the teaching happens, as the information goes back and forth. Whereas a video like this has a long-term value to it. If I have a new client or a new prospect, I can refer them back to this video. Someone watching this today, I might not meet you for 2-3 years, who knows? But the thing is, these types of videos I think are going to have long-term value, because this is how business is done in 2026, right? You have to generate new leads, you have to create content, you have to be comfortable in front of the camera, you have to develop this skill set. For me, 5, 6, 7 years ago, my first business, the podcast ended up being acquired by Motley Fool, big success there, but that was behind the scenes, right? Just talking into this mic, and being able to be in front of the camera is a skill set that I don't have, but I want to develop more. So I can't rely on what worked for me 5, 6 years ago. I need to develop a new skill set. So that's creating videos, publishing. I've been able to film almost daily, but I want to be able to publish more often. So it's looking at, again, those big things that are going to drive the needle. As the book kind of goes into, here, I'll kind of lay this in as an example and wrap with this basically, but for Disneyland, very magical experience for a lot of people, and it talks about how does the corporation, or how do the policies come down to the actual experience. And you look at these people that dress up as Mickey Mouse or Goofy or these different characters, and essentially, it gets down to the little little details of, how many photos did you take with kids that today versus 1 year ago to the day, right? They use these metrics of month over month or compared to last year, because they're obsessed over these micro improvements, and even to the point where they're able to monitor these things. But if trash falls on the ground, they literally time out how much time is it on the ground, and was it more time this today versus last month or last year. Because if somebody sees something negative, or if whatever, they step on a piece of gum, and then all of a sudden that creates sort of an experience later where they're taking the gum out of their shoe, they want to eliminate as much of that negative experience. They want to eliminate any broken windows that people might see, because if that person goes home and someone asks them, hey, how was your experience at Disneyland? And they're like, hey, it was cool. They're not enthused, they're not excited about it. Versus like, yeah, it was the best time ever. Got to take pictures with so and so, and it was just a beautiful place, and like, wow, like magical, right? If they don't articulate that, like if they don't set up the environment for that, then they might lose customers down the road. And this is a place that, if you love it or hate it, you have to recognize that, they've built up all these raving fans that come back, 20, 30 years later. And sometimes there's these people that are, whatever, 20s or 30s and 40s, they don't even have any kids, but they love going and experiencing that. So broken windows, broken business, I think too, it's not just the physical parts of the business, but also a lot of times I think it's in customer service. That's the last thing I'll say is, thinking back to when I had a few people on my payroll for my business, it's how do those people present the business and present themselves to the organization? Are they just doing their job, or is it, are they sort of that Disney employee that sort of sees how the small little actions might impact the overall business and the magical experience down the road? So happy to get this video done. 2026 off to a new year, new start. So what are those big goals that you've got, and how to look at your environment today? What are the small little tweaks you can make that then allow those big goals to sort of take care of themselves? So if you like content like this, it's sort of going to be life lessons from an entrepreneur, and what I've been able to implement that as an entrepreneur. The growth and developing new skill sets, whether again that's within communicating ideas or visions up to executive team, or if you're an entrepreneur, that's often communicating your values to customers or clients or members, being able to articulate and communicate. So going to be a lot of those different things on this channel, I think, and I'll be bringing the different books that I've read over the years, and the principles I've gotten from mentors and coaches, and just kind of share that with you. So if you like this content, definitely check out some of the other videos that get published, and till next time, peace.